So we're back this afternoon for more engaging discussions, and we are going to kickstart with a case study on mining. So we will start with the first case study on mining. And what we're really focusing on is rising cost trends for mining production and how to improve efficiencies through circularity. So this case study will be presented by Mafipe Chunga. He's the managing director at MCA Consulting Limited. As Mafipe is making his way, just to briefly introduce him, he is an investment professional who holds degrees in law and accounting. He is also a registered chartered accountant with more than 15 years of work experience in consulting and mergers and acquisition roles gained at a big four firm. He has worked on various assignments across Southern Africa with experience spanning sectors such as mining, agriculture, property development, manufacturing, and fast-moving consumer goods trading. So Mafipe, over to you. You have 10 minutes.
Afternoon, everyone. Okay, hopefully the slide will move to the next one. Quick introduction. She gave an intro there. I think my first slide is also an intro, but I'll add some extra information. Circular economies and waste in mining. So if I were you, I'd be wondering, what exactly does this person know about mining? I thought she's an accountant. So let me address that point first. Down there, those are mining assignments that I worked on. And one of the most interesting types of work I would be doing was either around forensics or internal audit. But a lot of it would be circled around the cost of production in mining. So typically, the mine would say, the engineers tell us we should be able to produce at X, but we can never do it. And then we'd do a study into it to work out the gap. What's the difference here? So I've done this. So at some point, I was the liquidator for KCM. So that was a critical issue because the mine was short of cash. At another point, I did a due diligence for KCM for a prospective buyer. So they wanted to understand the whole production process, how much it costs, is it sustainable? I'd also done a procurement review of Barrick Lumwana, internal audit at Barrick Lumwana, forensic audits, different sections. Did the same thing at Kajem Mine, Zamefa, Boart Longyear. I currently do this for ATL Drilling, which is a mining services contractor, and a few others. Okay, so the purpose of the presentation is not to slam mining companies. Mining companies bring incredible value to this country. They bring jobs, they bring taxes, but it's also a case where we need to say to ourselves, one culture we have in Zambia is people are very comfortable saying, this is how it's always been. This can't be changed. And I'm hoping we can interrogate some data that I've mined that will look into this issue. And the idea here is to raise questions and challenge mines and others to be more efficient in the use of resources. Okay, a couple of points that you need to understand. There are three key metrics that you'll see in mining. There's C1, C2, and AISC. Mining is unusual. So in a normal profit and loss statement, you'd find gross profit. So like if you're running a shop, you'd have sales, less your cost of sales. That would be your gross profit. In mining, they'll call it C1. So that's the cash cost of operating a mine. If you add depreciation, amortization, that now becomes C2, which is meant to be a measure if you were replacing your equipment. Now, because a mine is very long-term, your ore grades will shift in different areas and you need to keep exploring, they made AISC, which is a third measure which takes into account everything. For example, are you exploring new areas? Are you buying new licenses? Are you drilling? And the risks associated to that. But today, I'll be pretty much focused on C1 because it's easy to understand. Money out, copper back. Okay, so one of the things that holds back a circular economy is the people in the ecosystem. So I'll start with an example here. So there's where we are and where we'd like to be, and in between sit a series of barriers, okay? Comfort being one of the barriers that I referred to where people just say, this is how it's always been, we can't change it. Power dynamics, how could this change affect my role within the organization? Maybe it'll promote somebody else above me, so therefore I won't push it forward. Bias, there's certain things where all of us have some kind of bias, and it's important to be aware of those. And also skepticism. Usually when there's a huge leap forward, people are initially skeptical. They don't embrace new things. So I'll give an explanation of how this impacted me just a year ago. Everyone's favorite company, Zesco. 18 months ago, if you asked me the best, most affordable way to power your house, I would have said Zesco. Why? Because I'd grown up with that. It had been hammered into my head. This is the cheapest source of power. Not really true, as I discovered. So our current position is based on our technical knowledge, skills, experience, and bias. The experience and bias were playing a heavy role in there. Many people had come to me and said, you should actually go off grid. And I kind of sort of tried in 2017. I got a bad system that stopped working in a year. And it confirmed all the negative perceptions that I had about solar. So I just didn't want that thing. So it was kind of like a punishment when the power went off and I was forced to buy a solar system because I typically work at night when it's quiet, writing reports. And the best time to do that, the power was off. So I had to get this solar system. 18 months later, and I've now found myself as an advocate for solar because the system was just great. I bought it with the panels and the rest of that, and I cut my power bill by 80%. And I never would have thought that by buying that system, even if it stops working in year 4, I would have recovered and still made a profit on my Zesco bill. And this is before the prices go up. But 1,001 people can say that to you, but until you actually see it and experience it, your bias is kind of playing with your mind and telling you not to do it. And that was my own experience of those barriers. I was comfortable. I wasn't really worried about the power dynamic, even though we do love Zesco, but I did have a bias and I was skeptical of the technology. So, how does this affect mining? What you're looking at there is a chart that shows the copper price from the year 2000 to 2025. Okay? I'll show this chart 4 times, but with different data linked to it. And this is interesting. Overall, you can tell that there's been a significant shift in what they called the commodity supercycle of the early 2000s. Copper price jumped up. We often hear people in the industry, and it's another Zambian cultural thing. How are you doing? How is business? Oh, we're surviving. It's okay. We're trying. They'll never say things are going well. It's interesting. So I've stripped away the color there so that you can get a better look at it. First thing, when I looked at that data, I began to wonder, what were those dips? Because you see, you had the scoop up after about 2004 onwards, and I said, what was causing that dip? So on far left there, if you can't read that properly, that was the point at which mines were privatized. See if the pointer will give me. No, the laser isn't playing ball, but anyway, on the left-hand side, that's ZCCM privatization. And the price was sitting at an all-time low ever. 2008, in the middle there, that's the global financial crisis. It went down for about a year and then bounced right back up. But even when it came down, it never went all the way down to where it was in 2000. It was like double that price anyway. So it kind of moved from $1,800 a ton to, at its lowest there, the lowest it's been there is about $3,500 a ton. 3,000 to 3,500 has been the lowest point from there. The next one was an earthquake in Japan. And you'd wonder how the thing's linked, but these economists, maybe she'll explain it to us. There was an earthquake in Japan that caused copper prices to fall and affected production in Zambia. But these things are real. The second one was the Chinese economic slowdown in 2015. So it was speculation around the slowdown. The copper price dipped. They are the main buyers and people were concerned. It led to speculation, but it bounced right back. If you were to draw a trend line, you can actually see that for 20 years, more or less, copper has been trending upwards and upwards and upwards. But I was also always wondering, if all these good things are happening, the production output is increasing and the price is increasing, why don't we really see it or feel it? Because it didn't add up. But I found this piece of data very difficult to find. It's produced by Brooke Hunt, who are doing a study into production costs in mining across different geographies. Now, on the left-hand side, in case you can't see it there's a list of countries. And then it's got the cost of producing copper, C1, across the different countries. 1980 to 84, 85 to 89, 1990 to 94, 95 to 99, and so on. So at the top of that list, most efficient producer is Indonesia. They started out in 1980 producing at $1 per pound of copper, C1. They've brought that price down by 2010 to 22 cents per pound. Okay, so you see a significant decline. The USA has $1.72 in 1980. By 2010, they're taking it down to 71 cents. Circled at the bottom there is Zambia, which was $1.52 in 1980 and $1.54 in 2010. There's something even more interesting than that, which is that between 1985 and 1989, the price came down to 82 cents. So I went to look at the data there, and the copper price dipped. When the copper price dipped, everyone started implementing measures to bring the cost of production down because they couldn't afford it. At that point, they were super efficient. When the price went up again, even the production cost also went up. So it speaks to a culture of waste that is there when everything is okay. And I can relate to this because what I found was that one of the key things that changed in my home around power consumption is I'd walk into a room and I'm checking what's on, turn off that light, who's in there, turn this off. I didn't do that before. Why? Yes, it cost money, but I was like, it's just let's go, let's put it aside. And over time, particularly in an industry like mining, those things add up. All of the things that you just kind of sweep aside and say, we'll deal with this another time. We're producing here. Can you let us focus on that? And having worked in a number of these mines, that would be the general culture is the mining people are interested in moving rocks out of the ground and production targets. They're not particularly interested in the cost of the production. That's kind of like an ancillary issue. So it's not really treated like a business sometimes. So the chart you see over there has got a couple dotted. So it's got the chart and then it's got the lines across there. So it's showing the US moving from $3,874 per ton production cost, C1, in 1984 to 1,562. So they were able to bring down the cost of producing copper by 60%. If you look at Zambia, we only needed one line because it didn't really change. It was a fractional difference over 40 years. So I found some images that talk about 40 years difference. In the top left, that was a high performance car in 1984. And on the right hand side, that's one in 2025. That was a top end computer in 1984. And on the right side, you've got a Mac now. That was a cell phone in 1984 versus the iPhone today. There's been tremendous change over that period of time. Even 10 years, there's been tremendous technological advancement. So how we still end up in a situation where our production cost is the same is baffling, and it needs further investigation. So talking about the bias, you could go and say this to mining people, just like me. I was like, no, Zesco is the best way to power your home. I can see no other way until you finally break through. And I hope forums like this one will encourage people, not just in mining, but other sectors to say, we need to relook at our production. Yes, this is how we've previously done it, but I think it's time we did a complete review of what it is that we're doing because there's benefit to be had here. The bias you always hear around mining in Zambia, they'll say it's expensive to import into Zambia. But that's unusual because that should ideally create a lot of backloads that allow low cost exports. But I've never heard anyone say that. I don't know what the economists think. We'll come back to that one. We've been told that power is expensive. Then at the same time, Zesco tell us that no. Power is actually sold for below its production cost to you and to mines. When I looked at the global cost of power and what they pay in other countries, it's a fraction of the cost. Zesco is underpriced. It's so underpriced. We're told fuel is expensive. But here's something interesting. You know, a lot of the mines import their fuel. So they're not actually subjected to the same prices you and I face here. They're at that scale where they can do that. They're as large as an oil marketing company. So I don't know why the fuel is expensive. Another one is that critical skills are lacking. So I started doing some research and I found in a number of the top universities globally where they teach mining engineering, chemical engineering, you actually find Zambians lecturing there. So while we have a critical skills gap in one area, we also export skills and experience. If you look at particularly engineers who work globally, they tend to be mining engineers out of Zambia because they have a different skill set. I'm told they are very much get it done people. So they are sought after skill set. You find mining engineers in Australia. I met them going to Saudi Arabia, all over the world. But somehow we're told that skills are lacking on this end. Dealing with the bias. Looking for a volunteer, somebody knowledgeable, semi-knowledgeable in mining, anybody? To take a few guesses for me. They're just going to answer one or two questions. Don't be shy. Is there somebody here? Okay, super. The way I was doing this, I was saying that you've got 4 factors, okay? that make up the cost of production, like 4 key inputs. All right. So what do you think they are? And how much do you think they contribute to the cost of producing copper? So let's list the 4 factors.
Okay, so this is the perspective.
Yeah.
So your other so water as well as fuel. I think fuel comes third.
So I've got 3 from you so far. I've got power, capex,
Yes.
fuel.
Yes.
Well, I need one more factor.
Cost of import. Oh, no. Tax. Yes. I think tax is also definitely one of them.
Labor. Thank you.
Well,
I'll extend the question now. So we've got 4 key factors here. In fact, we've ended up with 5, but that's okay. We've said power, capex, fuel, tax, and labor. Okay? So we're going to put Zambia side by side against the US. Okay? Power cost. Is Zambia higher or lower than the US? Yeah, I'd say it's lower. Capex. Would it be higher or lower? Lower. Let's be lower. If you're an international mine borrowing for expansion, it would be lower.
So when you're doing exploration,
Mhm.
and or depending on the type of mine you have, if it's an underground mine, then the capex will be very high. Okay, because there's development you have to do, and then if you're looking for new prospects, you have to do exploration. So those are 2 different things with an open pit mine. Yes, so it depends on what type of mining is in the US and what type. Most of the Zambian mines are underground mines. So if you take Konkola, which pumps a lot of water, you find that the capex, including just energy, is more than an open pit mine. So it's
I would partially agree with you there, but FQM, do they operate any underground operations here?
no, most of them are open pits.
And they're the single largest producer of copper now.
In Zambia, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, they're on the 24 largest producers globally, but I'll come back to that one. So it would be the same. Capex, yeah. Fuel, would it be cheaper, same, more expensive in the US? Yes. Equal. The taxes, are they higher or lower here or the US? Lower here. For the retail consumer, yeah. For the mega mine, the labor, is it higher or lower here? Okay. So here's the interesting part of the equation. Zambia versus USA on the different factors. Power, Zambia holds the advantage. Capex is the same. All the equipment to be procured from the same place, from the same capital pool anyway. Fuel, probably the same. Taxes, lower here. Labor, lower here. But somehow we get a higher production cost. Why is that? I've never been able to understand it. No, actually, Zambia has some of the best grade profiles. No. It's a mix because there are mines like Lubambe that were at some point 2.2 was their target, and they claimed that Mingomba it was as high as 4.9. Yep. So it varies, but they publish it or claim to. So there's an EITI report. It's kind of backed up, but there is some information there. So I think they are pretty transparent. I'm happy to take this one offline. We can continue it. Jetty, please go ahead.
For production methodology, which brings in efficiencies. So there are different technologies available, and you find that the latest one will be maybe more expensive technology, but then it generally, in many cases, very, very efficient. And in most cases, we are behind there, and the efficiencies really matter.
Now, final slide. They're giving me signals here, like the Oscars. The mic will turn off and that. So, this is what I discovered, and surprised me. Labor, services, and stores make up 75% of the cost of producing copper. So, stores. So when I asked about this, and I was like, what? Stores? Yes. So a lot of the equipment, if you buy one item, the packaging units just don't work. The cost of shipping it becomes twice as much. A lot of the vendors of international goods don't stock them here and have no interest in stocking them. A lot of the products that could be made here are imported anyway. A vast number of the services, from electrical services, geotech, are imported even when they can be provided locally. So it has a huge cost. 75% of the cost is linked to those three things: stores, labor, services. Every time the kwacha goes up, for kwacha denominated salaries, the cost of production goes down. So that's clearly not a factor. But the services and the stores are massive. Fuel, you can see, and electricity are very thin elements within there. When you actually go to a mine, there isn't, okay, you've got the dump trucks that are kind of moving there, but there isn't a lot of activity. It's not really a hive, it's highly mechanized. So things have changed. I've got the signal here. So what about this? Okay. The point of this is to open up debate and discussion around improved ways of mining and production in Zambia. My firm, MCA Consulting, does data and analytics into cost reduction strategies, particularly in the mining and agri sectors. We shouldn't accept things as this is how it's always been. Thank you very much.